All right, enough of that. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Harry Fling Wrestling. I am your host, Harry Fling, and today we've got an album review in store for us today as we're going to be looking at WWE Anthology, which is a 3-disc set here. And this is an album I was very excited to get at 13 years old, and this album was released in November of 2002. And around this point in time in wrestling, we were in the Ruthless Aggression era, where a lot of emphasis was put on the actual in-ring holds, the wrestling maneuvers versus the storytelling and the talking and all that. And one of the best treasures from the Ruthless Aggression era is the fall of 2002, when Paul Heyman was writing for SmackDown, and you had the SmackDown 6, which were Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Edge, Kurt Angle, and Chris Benoit, all having consistently great tag matches, singles matches, six-man tags, even competing for the newly established WWE Tag Team Championships. That lineage is now today's Raw's World Tag Team Championship. This is a great time, and getting music from professional wrestling was harder than it looked way back when, because a lot of this music is not in the public domain, more so now than before. But over the years, my brother and I had to go through Napster, Audio Galaxy, LimeWire, Morpheus. There were all these different music sources where you could, quote unquote, get your music. A lot of it's considered stealing, so it probably lawfully wasn't the right thing to do, but a lot of people were doing it back then, so I'm sure many of us got away with it. And you could actually get music that was also sold in stores, but people didn't want to buy one album for one track that they actually loved. So this was iTunes had already started, I think, in maybe 2001, but I think this was like a different route, so to speak. Easier way of getting music and then burn it to a CD. WWE Anthology came at a great time because there were all these great tracks from other superstars who might not be top-level, top-tier stars, but they had great themes. Now, the 3 discs are devoted to 3 different eras. You had the Federation years, which was basically, I want to say, this was definitely pre-Attitude Era, so 1985, the Golden Era, up until when the new generation started around 1993. So probably 1985 to 1997 covers the Federation years, and we got 33 tracks. And it starts off with a nice signature. A signature is the opening to the show that you watch at the very start of each show. In WWE, they had the signature that went like this: the World Wrestling Federation, for over 50 years, the most dominating force in sports entertainment. My favorite was when they had the thunderstorm/tornado imagery, and it had this kind of eerie classical music sound in the back that went da 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 da. And that probably lasted from about 96 to 97. Then they changed up the signature. They change it every so often now. Then you go to the disc 2 is the Attitude Era, my favorite, 1997 till about 2001. Their signature was great. It was incomprehensible, but it was some verbiage that went something like this. I would say attitude flashing across the screen. You got 35 tracks on this one. The Federation years had 33 tracks. Disc 2, the Attitude Era, had 35 tracks. Then you get to Disc 3, which is now. At that point in time, it would have been considered current. So yes, naturally you'd call it now. Looking back, 23 years ago, this was the Ruthless Aggression era, or at the very start of it. And their signature came about because of the name change from WWF to WWE. There were two WWFs, real quick, I want to tell you this. We had the World Wildlife Fund, catered to preserving wildlife and the animals there. Then, of course, the World Wrestling Federation. The World Wrestling Federation got sued in court over the initials, and they had a cease and desist order, I think, against them. So they were forced to change their name to World Wrestling Entertainment, which we still call them today, shortened to WWE. So their signature went a little something like this, while also incomprehensible. and a little percussion beat played. And then the big giant WWE scratch logo appeared on the screen. We used that scratch logo till 2014, and then the logo we use today is from 2014 to present. And you only had 18 tracks on this one because there wasn't enough to really fill the void yet. So I want to go over some of these tracks that I really love, some favorites, and then some not so good ones here. So let's dissect it, shall we? Let's start with the Federation years. You have your standards like Hulk Hogan's Real American, Bret Hart's Hitman, Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy. Now those songs had already been previously released. You had some previously released tracks. Hogan's was already on the first wrestling album, and at the time Real American was meant for the U.S. Express, Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda. But it turns out the U.S. Express came out, I think, with what's that guy's name? With Bruce Springsteen. Why am I saying that about Springsteen of all people? Because he just wasn't on my thought process right now. U.S. Express came out to Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. So sometimes wrestlers will use stuff that's already in the public domain, just have to pay extra for royalties to those artists or their record company. So Hulk Hogan ended up using Real American. Rick Derringer, who performed the track. Bret Hart's Hitman was already released on Full Metal, the album, which would technically be WWF The Music Volume 1, but we didn't call it The Music until Volume 2 came out. That was on Full Metal, as well as Shawn Michaels' Sexy Boy. Now, some ones that were new to this album that I really liked. I like the Bushwhackers' Walkabout. It's kind of got a nice little upbeat sort of dirge to it, if that makes any sense. The Ultimate Warrior's Unstable is actually okay, but it's not the original version he used. I've listened to enough wrestling themes over 30 years that I have an ear for which one was for each in every variation, so I can cut down to the nitty-gritty on this one here, break it down for you. Ultimate Warrior's theme song here is called Unstable, but if you type in on YouTube Warrior Wildfire, that's the version he used, I want to say from 1987 till 1996, because he had two separate returns after being fired in 91. That was a great song, but not this version because it's sort of looped. Anytime it's looped, it's just going to go right back to the beginning. You'll know when a song's looped. What else is great on this one? Let's see. You had, I'm trying to think. I like that you put Ted DiBiase's All About the Money. Money, 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 money. Funny thing about that track, when he actually used that as a theme song as early as 1990, because before that he didn't have any music. Not many people did pre-90s, late 80s. They just overdubbed the parts where he says everybody's got a price, everybody's got to pay, and they kept putting money, money, money over it. So a little slight variation there. Jake the Snake's Snake Bit, that's a nice addition. Except it's not Snake in the Grass. Snake in the Grass is the much better version Jim Johnston should have used on here. Jim Johnston's the man behind all this music, by the way, so many props to James Allen Johnston. Snake Bit goes really hard on the percussion, whereas if you listen to Snake in the Grass, it sort of just slowly creeps in, just kind of like how Jake was in the way he made his way to the ring. Snake in the Grass has a nice little, I can't find the word for it, but it goes like this. And you don't have those heavy drum beats in the beginning. So I'm picky about theme music like this. Sorry, but that's just how I am when it comes to this stuff. One of the best things about this particular album here on the first disc is the No Holds Barred theme, which you heard at the start of this video here. Hulk Hogan and Zeus were the stars of that movie that came out in the summer of 1989. Hogan, I think, did much of that filming in 88, which is why they kept the belt on Randy Savage for the most part. And just a great song to an okay movie. I saw it years ago. I'm not impressed with Hulk Hogan movies. I don't think he's that great an actor, to be honest. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock can do a much better job, and so can John Cena in this day and age. Rock will always be Rock to me. I don't like that he's being called Dwayne Johnson. That's just me. So yeah, that takes care of the first disc here. There's a few other stuff here that's just okay, not worth mentioning. The Attitude Era is probably the best one of the bunch. You have D-Generation X's Break It Down. Da-na-na-na, da. That was already released on WWF The Music Volume 3. Now, a lot of these re-releases, they cut the time, if you notice. So instead of 3 minutes, it might be 2 minutes or 1:30. What else? I Won't Do What You Tell Me is the name of Stone Cold Steve Austin's theme song, which was also on WWF The Music Volume 3. That's the one with the Glass Shatters. Glass Shatters is actually the Disturbed theme, and that's on Forcible Entry. We'll talk about that album another time. Another re-release, you have Ass Man, Mr. Ass, Billy Gunn's theme. I'm an Ass Man. That was on WWF The Music Volume 4. As for some new ones here, you have Deadly Game, which was the theme song to Survivor Series 98. 'Cause it's a deadly game. Dun, da, 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 da. California was also on here, which is also the theme song to WrestleMania 2000. Go back and watch the video I did rewriting WrestleMania 2000. You'll hear it at the start of the video there. What else? Godfather's Ho Train's on here. That hadn't been released before. Let's see. The Dudley Boys Were Coming Down. Dun, 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 dun. That's the one I like best. Hardcore Hollies, How Do You Like Me Now? That's just to name a few. Then we go to disc 3. Now, whatever was current at the time was being used. You had Eric Bischoff's I'm Back and Better Than Ever. I'm not singing it in the right key, so forgive me. This is just a talk more than it is a musical performance. Bischoff, actually, a funny story, he did try to sing his own theme song, Bad Blood 2003, in that stupid redneck triathlon with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Boy, does he suck as a singer. And I'm Back is kind of a parody of AC/DC's Back in Black. If you listen to both songs, a lot of wrestling songs are based off of real songs, and we can talk about that another time. You had SummerSlam 2002's Fight, one of my favorite events I ever went to live. That was on Long Island at the Nassau Coliseum, August 2002. I will fight you, and I will put you in the ground. I always think about Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Unsanctioned Fight. Great stuff. I also love King of My World, featuring Saliva. This was supposed to be for Chris Jericho. He only used this once. It was a live performance at Survivor Series 02. Survivor Series 02 was the first Elimination Chamber match ever. It was on pay-per-view. That was at Madison Square Garden, and not far from Madison Square Garden was WWE The World. It used to be WWF New York, but then you had the name change. It was called The World. And Saliva performed at The World whilst Jericho was walking down the aisle to make his way into the chamber at Madison Square Garden at Survivor Series. I actually liked this one as a kid, although it's gotten cornier and cornier over the years because it sounds like maybe a sixth grader tried to rhyme some words together in this one here. This is The Undertaker's You're Gonna Pay. This is when Undertaker was still a biker. You're gonna pay! You're gonna pay! And if you want to listen to any of these tracks, just find them on YouTube. They're out there. It's just, listen to the lyrics of You're Gonna Pay. How does it go? No more chances, no more excuses, no lies, your story's ending. Time to say your goodbyes, nice guys. It said they always finish last, but bad asses, always kicking ass all night. Now, some of that doesn't make sense just because it sounds like I said, they're just picking words out of a hat and hoping that they rhyme, so... But it made for a good song, and it made for a great theme for Taker as far as, I'm really going to legit kick your ass there. So it struck fear at his opponents, but maybe not the kind of fear it was intended because you can't really take that song seriously. So some songs are good in their own right. And anyways, you have some bad ones here too, like Bertha Faye, a short-lived character from 1995. She had this theme song, Sweet Lovin' Arms. That's probably a track that shouldn't have been on here. It's probably one of the worst themes ever made. Harvey Whippleman's just crooning to her in it. There's another really bad... I'll Be Your Hero, which was the music used for Lex Luger on the Lex Express, and this is the summer of 93. Another bad one. That was on a cassette tape, WWF Fan Club, I think it was 93, 94. My brother was a member of the fan club back then, and you got a free cassette tape in the mail with autographs and signatures and a bunch of other free shit. Yeah, so you had a lot of that going on. So now I'm talking about the ones that aren't so good. Together is okay. That was used for Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth's wedding. Together, our love will last forever. Something like that. That's disc 1. Now disc 2, where's some bad ones on here? I really hate D'Lo Brown's theme, The Real Deal. Looking at the real deal now. He had a better theme that he used before this, which was more upbeat. I don't get pumped for this one like I would for the You Better Recognize theme. You Better Recognize, I think, is on Uncaged Volume 7 or 8. I can't remember. Go look it up on YouTube. I think You Better Recognize. He should have used that one. It had a more upbeat, what's the word I'm looking for? It had a nice feel to it, I guess, for lack of a better word. Sorry. Real Man's Man. I can't believe this one ever made it on here. This is William Regal when he was Stephen Regal. Stephen with a PH. He typically spelled it with a V. He's a man, such a man, such a man. He's a real man's man. Yeah, he was basically a self-made man who did everything by himself, from cutting down trees to squeezing his own orange juice, chopping his own wood. That's a real man right there, if I've ever seen one. Oh, man. Let's keep going here. Let's get to disc 3. What are some of the bad ones? Oh, I hate this one. Eyes of Righteousness. This was Reverend Devon. This is after the Dudleys got split in the draft. Bubba went to Raw. Devon went to SmackDown. Devon took on an almost real-life persona because he does work as a Baptist minister. He is an ordained clergyman in real life, Devon Hughes, Devon Dudley, post-retirement. So this one was very close to his gimmick, so it worked. I just hated the song. Lord, give me eyes of righteousness. It just didn't fit wrestling too well, but be that as it may. What was another bad one? This one doesn't have really bad. Armageddon's The End is okay. Just get sick of hearing that one year after year. 2000s. The end is near. Then you have Shane McMahon's Here Comes the Money, featuring vocals from the rap group Naughty by Nature. Here comes the money. I don't like that one as much. I like the version he used at Backlash 01, which can be found on Uncaged Volume 5. Uncaged did a whole bunch of releases of songs that didn't make it to Anthology. So overall, Anthology is not a bad album. There is a free downloadable bonus track that you could have gotten at the time, but it ended up being released on Thematic, WWE The Music Volume 6, which was Billy Kidman's You Can Run If You Want To. You can run if you want to. It was a rap song, only 1 minute and 45 seconds in length. That's its duration. The only trouble with some of these songs is, especially on disc 2, you start to listen to the track and it cuts off where the last song left off. So you just hear this tiny little bit of the last song and then they go right into the next one, but it kind of doesn't splice too well. It's hard for me to explain. You really have to listen to a lot of these tracks to get the full feel. And some of the durations are kind of short, and I understand we have 86 tracks in all on 3 CDs. That's a lot of memory it's going to take up. So it's not, we were somewhat digital, but not quite as digital in technology as we are now. And CDs are almost a thing of the past, and I'm feeling old just saying that. Another reason I like this so much too is, I'm a musician outside of my fandom of wrestling. Wrestling's a big passion of mine, and music, I would say, comes a close second here. I sing with a choir, I play guitar here and there, and I've loved to sing ever since I was a kid, so having these two worlds collide means a lot to me. And there's some other albums I'll review along the way. And if you want to see what WWE Anthology looks like, I'll show you a quick picture here from my phone. It's one of the most confusing looking albums I've ever seen. See if we can kind of blow this up a little bit. Here we go. It's not going to turn. But anyways, here's the cover here. Who the hell is this guy on the front? I want to say it's Chris Jericho, but why would he do that pose? This looks like a Ruthless Aggression era Raw set with the sideways Titantron. Who the hell is this guy? I just want to know. If you know, just put it in the comments and tell me. But anyways, that's about all I've got for now. This has been another great edition of Harry Fling Live. I'm Harry Fling. Would love to hear your thoughts, comments, anything you want to say, anything you want to share. I'm all for it. Until next time, everybody. Bye-bye.